The movie opens straight into a therapy center for kids with autism. A military dad and his weary wife sit across from a specialist, trying to figure out what to do with their young son Chris. The kid's smart, maybe too smart, but he's wired differently, struggles with routine, struggles with change. And with his father constantly away on deployments, Chris has never had a stable ground to stand on. The specialist suggests something bold: leave Chris at the center.
Let your son stay with us for the summer, free of charge.
Give him structure, a controlled space where he can thrive. But the father shuts that idea down without blinking. To him, life doesn't hand out comfort, it hands out chaos. And Chris needs to be ready for it. The world won't adapt to him, so he has to adapt to the world. Meanwhile, little Chris sits on the floor in the waiting room, locked in, focused. He's working on a puzzle like it's a life or death mission. He rocks back and forth, softly chanting, Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. But just as he's about to finish, one piece is missing, and the kid starts to break. Panic creeps in.
Not in here.
He's seconds from spiraling, until a quiet girl sitting nearby notices. She reaches out and hands him the missing piece. Peace restored, crisis avoided. And just like that, we understand everything about how his brain works. Patterns matter, order matters. Any break in the structure feels like disaster. Fast forward, Chris is a man now. Still quiet, still precise, still carrying that intensity in his eyes. He's helping a couple with their taxes, calmly showing them how to squeeze every cent. The man's impressed. So impressed, he invites Chris to come by their property to shoot targets. Chris accepts. Doesn't say much, but then again, he never does. Meanwhile, Ray King, a big shot at the Treasury Department, is grilling analyst Mary Beth Medina. First, he compliments her work, then the trap springs. He knows about her past, sealed juvenile records, arrests, stuff she buried deep, and now he's holding it over her head. Either she helps track down an off-the-books accountant, one who launders money for cartels and occasionally leaves behind bodies, or she's out. King gives her a deadline, end of the month, no excuses. Back at home, Chris isn't watching TV or scrolling his phone. His routine is brutal. Dinner, pills, then it begins. Strobe lights, heavy metal, and a wooden rod he uses to hammer his own shins. Not a hobby, more like a purge. Pain is how he levels out. And as he grits through the chaos, his mind goes back to a night when his mother walked out on Christmas. No explanation, just gone. The next day, Chris shows up at the couple's property. Rifle in hand, eyes sharp, he hits every target with machine-like precision. The guy watching is stunned. But Chris, this is normal. Later, he drives to a storage unit. But forget cardboard boxes and old couches. This place is his secret world. Inside a hidden trailer is a museum of power. Stacks of foreign bills, priceless artwork, tactical gear, and enough firepower to invade a small country. He lies down. Finally, some rest. Flashback. Prison. Chris's old cellmate, the guy who taught him how to play the game. How to move money for criminals. How to survive in a system built to crush people like him. Then the phone rings. A British woman on the other end. Chris's business partner. The invisible hand behind his jobs. She tells him it's time to clean things up. No more risky clients. Take a normal job. Blend in. Chris grumbles but agrees. Next day, he's meeting with a high-end prosthetics company. They suspect someone's been stealing from the inside. Their junior accountant Dana caught something strange. They want Chris to figure it out. He doesn't blink, says he'll start tomorrow. Somewhere else, Medina is scanning faces and she lands on a partial match. She sends it for analysis. Maybe it's finally a lead. And across the ocean, enter Brax, mercenary, executioner. He's confronting a fraud in a parking garage, slips into the guy's car, gun in hand, tells him to stop bleeding companies dry, or next time, the conversation won't be so polite. Back at the company, Chris arrives in the meeting room and finds Dana, passed out on the table. She jumps up, embarrassed, and introduces herself. Assumes they'll be working together. Chris, he doesn't work with anyone, especially not people who talk too much. He starts digging into the numbers while Medina gets a call from Homeland Security. Not only did the face scan match, the guy's voice matches audio from a past hit. The recording is chilling. A man begging, Chris finishing him off. And in the background? At lunch, Dana tries to spark conversation. Chris stares at her, tries to answer, but his words come out stiff. Socializing is another world to him. Then back to work. Chris transforms the room into a war zone of equations. Numbers covering windows, whiteboards, walls. It looks like madness, but it's genius. Finally, he cracks it. Someone's been funneling company funds into a ghost business. But before he can name names, a shareholder bursts in, demanding results.
Who did it? Best guess.
I don't guess.
Chris says he needs more time. The guy storms out. That night, Brax visits another exec. Gives him two choices: inject himself and make it look like a suicide, or let Brax do it the messy way. The man chooses the needle. Next morning, Chris walks into his workspace to find janitors erasing his work. He snaps. But the owner walks in and tells him the shareholder Chris was chasing killed himself. Guilt, apparently. Case closed. Chris is livid. He doesn't like loose ends. Later that night, it's back to strobe lights, pain, and punishment. Morning. Chris senses someone tailing him, but says nothing. Instead, he drives to the same couple's property to shoot. But inside, things are ugly. Two thugs have taken the husband and wife hostage. One forces the wife to lure Chris inside. Too late. Chris drops the first thug with a long-range shot. The second panics, shoves the couple in a truck, and drives off. Chris disables the car, yanks the thug out, and demands answers.
Kill you both. That's all I know.
All the guy knows? Chris and Dana are both targets. Chris finishes the job and speeds off to find Dana. At her building, he spots a man shadowing her into the elevator. Chris takes the stairs. Quiet, precise. Meanwhile, Dana opens her door to two fake delivery guys. They shove their way in. She fights back, locks herself in the bathroom. Seconds later, Chris blows in like a storm. Takes them both down and tells Dana, "We're leaving, now." The man behind the hit? Brax. And he's not happy his team got wiped. Chris brings Dana to his trailer, tells her to stay outside. She doesn't listen. Inside, she sees it all. Guns, money, art. The real Chris. And the questions start. But Chris doesn't explain much. He never does. Elsewhere, Medina gets a new analysis. Whoever this guy is, he's likely dealing with trauma, maybe something neurological. That nursery rhyme isn't random. It's a symptom. She heads to the IRS, starts connecting fake identities with high incomes. Boom, there it is. His real name, Chris Wolff. Accountant by day, shadow by night. And get this, most of the money he makes, donated to neuroscience charities. Chris and Dana check into a hotel to lay low. She finally confronts him. How can he fight like that? Where'd he learn it? Chris opens up. His father, a military hard-ass, trained him young, taught him to never back down. Then Chris reveals he's autistic, and that connecting with people, that's the hardest thing in the world for him. Dana leans in for a kiss. Chris flinches, but in that moment, something clicks. The embezzlers weren't just stealing, they were reinvesting for bigger payouts. Later, Chris chases Brax. Gunfire, chaos. But he ends up at a hotel room with a dead exec on the floor. Meanwhile, Medina pieces it all together and calls King. Chris Wolff is the accountant. Chris returns to the hotel. Dana's asleep. He watches her for a while, then packs up and disappears. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. King and Medina raid his house. It's a bunker. Loaded weapons, surveillance systems. Not a home, a fortress. Brax gets a job from the company owner, installs security. He knows what's coming. King and Medina hang back. They open up. Medina talks about her past. King tells her he once had Chris at gunpoint. Chris asked one question, "Are you a good father?" King said yes. Chris walked away. That moment stuck with him. Now, King wants Medina to be the new point of contact for Chris's mystery partner, the British woman on the other end of the line. Soon, Chris storms the mansion. Brax sends out his men. Useless. Chris clears them out with brutal efficiency. Brax watches it all on the monitors and then hears it again. He freezes. It's Chris, his brother. They face off. Years of anger pour out. Brax blames Chris for vanishing, for their father's death. Chris lets him scream, lets him punch. Then they sit, talk. It's not peace, but it's something. Then the company owner bursts in. Loud, angry. Chris doesn't waste time. One shot, problem solved. Before they part, Chris promises Brax they'll reconnect. 1 week. A new boy wanders into the Autism Center. He meets a girl, quiet, nonverbal. She types on a special laptop. And the voice that comes out? That same British woman, the one who's been guiding Chris all along. Back at her place, Dana finds a package. Inside, a painting. But not just any painting, one of the originals from Chris's trailer. A message. He remembers. Was Chris doing the right thing all along, or was he just a controlled storm waiting to break? Let us know in the comments. And if you love movies that hit hard, think sharp and never hold back, subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss the next one.